But I wanted to share with you 4 or 5 little quick experiences that I've been especially blessed to have that led me to my testimony. Because I don't think you've ever heard these things. And I hope that it'll strengthen you as it has me. It started when I was a little boy, 5 years old. I wasn't even in school yet, and the Lord saved my life. How do I know that? I'll always remember it. My dad was the high school basketball coach in Nephi High School. And I had a little friend. His name was Jimmy Bean. I still remember him. I was 5 and he was 4. And we were told not to wear our shoes on the basketball court because it'd get marks on them. So we found, after school was out, everybody was gone, there was a door that we found open. Went in on the basketball court, took our shoes off, put them on the side of the, and played around a little bit. And then we decided to go explore. And wouldn't you know, we found the swimming pool. It had 2 big heavy doors. And we struggled and pushed and got our way in. And then they swung back and locked. We couldn't get out. Well, we weren't too scared. There was a couple of windows. And there was light outside a little bit still. And we thought they were locked. They weren't locked. It was just too heavy for us to open those doors. And then the miracle came. A voice louder and more dominating than mine right now said to me, "Arnold, don't go in the water." And, okay. There was a little walkway around the edge of that swimming pool in high school. It was about 2 or 3 feet wide. That was all. And just then little Jimmy Bean said to me, "Let's go swimming." I said, "No, we can't go in the water." "Oh, okay." So, since there wasn't much to do, we sat with our little backs up against the wall. Little did we know we were 3 feet from the deep end of the pool. Well, my dad recognized we were missing. He came looking for us. He saw the shoes by the edge of the basketball floor. He knew we were in the building. And he told me later, just a cold feeling gripped his heart, and he thought it was swimming pool. So he pushed the door open, and he used to whistle for me like a dog. You know, "Arnold!" And we yelled and jumped up and ran toward, each of us grabbed a leg and hugged it so hard, because the sun had gone down, we were getting a little scared. The Lord saved my life. Because I would have gone swimming because Jimmy Bean said, "Let's go in the water." But he said, "Don't go in the water." So I know the Lord loves me. And I know he loves all of us. I know he loves us a lot. I know he saved my life then. And on my way to Finland, he saved my life. I almost fell overboard on the MS Grippo. Out on the Atlantic Ocean. Oh, that's another story. Let me tell you another story about why I know these things are true. It was on my first mission. I'd worked hard for 2.5 years to learn that language. Finnish language is not an easy language. The only people that learn Finnish language are Finnish babies and Mormon missionaries.
Chris know? Yeah. Is Chris know Finnish?
Probably.
He's
got this guy's camp, I'm sure he is. A little different dialect.
I was 3 months from the end of my 2.5-year mission. I was the district president. Back in those days, the missionaries were branch presidents and district presidents because we didn't have any Melchizedek priesthood. Yet the mission was so new. The first missionaries left Finland just as I was arriving. That's how new that mission was. 2.5 years. Well, anyway, this little story I'll tell you helped me understand how the gift of tongues is given. I got it, and I can testify. I've had the gift of tongues. I worked hard because the president of the mission had assigned me to give a talk on baptism. And I had 3 months to go. And I wrote it out in English, and I wrote it out in Finnish, as good as I could do, with study and prayer. And just before the meeting, I took a bath, put on clean clothes so that I was as clean on the outside as I was on the inside. And then I went, sat down, and the mission president said, "Elder, may I please read your talk?" So I handed him my talk. It was on 5x7 cards in English and in Finnish. He read my talk. He knew what I was going to say. Then I got up and I said, "Rakat veljet ja sisaret, dear brothers and sisters, minä rukoilen, että Herran henki olisi minun kanssani. I pray that the Spirit of the Lord will be with me. Niin, että voin antaa teille, so that I give you, ne ajatukset, jotka Herra haluaa teidän tiedän. Those ideas that the Lord wants you to know." And guess what? He did. I took those 5x8 cards and just shifted them over in the corner of the pulpit. Didn't even look at them. And I gave the best talk that I have ever given before or since, in the best Finnish that I've ever spoken before or since. Well, my poor mission president, he knew what I had prepared. He knew what the Lord had given the saints through the gift of tongues. And so he wasn't scheduled to talk, but he stood right up and he told them what I've just told you. And he said, "Now after this meeting, we're going to have baptism. You've heard what the Lord wants you to do. We invite all who would like to be baptized to be baptized." Well, we had been told to bring our white clothes, and the counselor in the mission presidency had a portable baptism font rigged up in one of the neighborhood saunas, public saunas. Nobody was there because it was Sunday. And we held a baptism service like you won't believe. I was privileged to baptize 6 of our investigators. My companion baptized 6 more of our investigators. Each of the 2 office elders in the Helsinki office of the mission, each baptized 6 more of our investigators. Several of the elders who were there baptized many of their investigators. I tell you, that was an amazing day in the Tampere district of the Finland Helsinki mission. And that's another testimony you see to me. And I'm telling you this because you might not have heard that little story.
What a great story.
It's true. See, I know it's true. I've experienced it, so I can share that with you. I'm telling you what I know, not what I think. Let me share another little story with you. I'd only been in Finland 2 or 3 weeks. No, it was later than that. I'd been 2 or 3 months. And we had a basketball team. And the Finns were just starting basketball. They didn't know anything about basketball. And I'd played a freshman ball at the University of Utah with Vadel Peterson, whose team had won the NIT, beat Kentucky, Minority Fair and those guys. And he was our coach. He taught me all kinds of stuff that I didn't learn in high school. And I took that with me to Finland. Well, I didn't know it, but our district president at that time was captain of our missionary team, and he was very proud of it. He didn't know me from Adam because I was just a little greenie. And so naively, I asked the mission president, how does one receive the MVP award on the international championship games that they're holding here, if awarded? They had Sweden and 2 teams from Finland and the American team, us, missionaries. My district president took exception to that. John D. Smith, you think you're going to get the MVP award? I was embarrassed. But I thought in my mind, I don't know, only the Lord can answer that right now, but if I were to receive it, I would not want to bring dishonor on the church by not knowing how to receive it. So, the mission president said, you stand at attention, you click your heels, you bow at the waist, you extend your hand, you shake the hand of the man who's granting the MVP award, and you say, Kiitos. That's finished for thank you. Well, we played one of the two Finnish teams and beat them. Then the other Finnish team played the Swedish team and beat them. And then we played second game same night. The winning Finnish basketball team, and we beat them. And everybody lined up for the awards. And I clicked my heels, bowed at the waist, and slightly bowed my head, and stuck out my hand and said Kiitos, as they awarded me the MVP award for the international tournament. Well, that sparked the mind of one of the outstanding basketball teams in the Suomen Voimistelu- ja Urheiluliitto, the Finnish National Athletic Association. And they went right to the mission president and they said, we'd like him to be our coach. 19 years old. And he said, okay. So every Friday night, I get on the train, go down to Helsinki, meet him at the gym, teach him what Vadel Peterson had taught us. And then I'd go back that same day so that I'd be ready to preach the next day in church. Well, all of a sudden, this team started beating everybody else they played, because they had all the stuff that helped win the NIT championship for Vadel Peterson. And pretty soon, all the other coaches in the National Basketball League organization went to the president of the mission and said, we want to take a coach from each of the teams in our whole league and our best player and convene at the National Athletic Academy and have you send Isaacson over to teach us a week at a time for 3 weeks. I did. All of a sudden, I was known throughout the whole country as a Mormon missionary and as a basketball involvement coach. I was 20. Well, there are 2 leagues in Finland. There's the National Basketball League, and then there's the Communist Basketball League. And all of a sudden, the National Basketball League then started to beat the Communists every time they played them. And Communists didn't take long to figure that one out. They went to the mission president. They said, we want Isaacson to come over and teach us what he's taught these guys. Okay. I was the first and only American to have ever been admitted to the Communist Athletic Academy in Finland for a week to teach their coaches and their basketball players how to win ball games. And I taught them.
Can you come work with my team next year?
You're good. And I taught them what Vadel had taught me. Not that I was so great. What was happening? Yeah. That's what was happening. You know, that is a testimony that out of small things, a little game like basketball, great things can happen. All of a sudden, not only was I known throughout the nation, but the Mormon missionaries were known throughout the nation. Okay. It came time for the European National Invitational Tournament being held in Paris, France. And Finland was invited to participate. Well, the year before in Nice, they had gone and Finland had lost 9 straight games. They hadn't won a single game out of all the 9 games. So they didn't even think about scouting us, you know. The Friday before we were to leave, we held a game against the national basketball team of Finland, against the Mormons. Up until that time, Finland had never beaten the Mormon missionary team. So I played with the missionaries the first half. We were ahead 3 points. And then the president said, now you go sit on the bench for the Finnish team and tell them how they can do better. Okay, so I did. And for the first time, Finland beat America by 3 points. At the end of the game, pretty soon they were carrying me around the floor as if I had had anything to do with it. We know where that came from. And the captain of the team, a communist boy by the name of Tapio Päivänen, rushed up to our mission president and said, we need Isaacson to go with us down to Paris Sunday morning. Well, this was Friday night. How do you get visas stamped and tickets bought and currency? Sunday I was on that boat, along with the rest of the Finnish team. I was their coach, with instructions and permission from both leagues to be the head coach without restraint. 20 years old. Coach, national basketball team. Participating in European Invitational Championships. We went down there, and I had kneeling prayer with the team the first night we were there. That was the only time we did that. And we'd have a staff meeting every day with the team to show them what they were doing wrong, what we could do better, explain problem, problem solving. And we won 7 of our 9 games. The only teams that beat us were the Russians and the Turks, and they went on to win first and second place in the conference. After the meeting was over, they had a huge banquet in the Hotel Alpine over in France, and the secretary of the French Federation of Basketball was in charge. He was the chairman of the whole deal. And all the teams were sitting together. And the Finnish team was down front and off to the side by the speaker stand. We just got into the dinner, and the secretary of the French Federation of Basketball stood up, came down, took my plate, and said, come up and sit next to me. Okay. There were 5 glasses by that plate. One was for red wine, one was for white wine, one was for vodka, one was for coffee, and one was for mineral water. That's the only one that I used. And when we got mostly done, the secretary said to me, your team has been judged as the most improved basketball team in all Europe this year. What do you attribute it to? And I said, better instruction from their coach. Obviously. Well, he said they are the best, most improved team. They didn't win anything, but they're the most improved team in all Europe. And he said, you must try some of our French vodka. It's marvelous. And I notice you haven't done anything except drink Vichy that thing, mineral water. I said, look at that team over there. That's my team. Look at what they're drinking. They're drinking milk, they're drinking water. They're not drinking your liquor. I'm the coach of that team. You wouldn't have me break my vows to them, would you? Because we have been practicing without smoking and without drinking alcoholic beverages to improve our wind. He taught them the word of wisdom. And it served them well. They had great custody, had great resilience. He took off 2 medals that he had received and put them on my lapel, and he said, here, you deserve these far more than I do. We came home and those boys were heroes. Finland takes its athletics very seriously. And and they had won 7 games. Even their most optimistic reviewers thought at most they'd win 3, because they hadn't won any. 7 of 9 games. Well, I didn't know it at the time, but there was a young man who was aspiring in government, who was a basketball enthusiast. His name was Paul Moon. He kept records of everything that team did, by name, including the coach. Well, it came time to go. And we were invited to a farewell banquet. The mission president and I were invited to the banquet room of Stockman, which is a large superstore. And there we were treated to a fine dinner, after which a member of the parliament, Herra Jussi Lappi-Seppälä, who was over all athletics in Finland, pinned the Silver Cross on my mission presidency belt for an outstanding contribution to Finnish athletics. And he pinned the Hopi Ansiomerkki, the Silver Medal Award from the National Basketball Association of Finland, the Suomen Urheilu ja Liitto, the Finnish Athletic Association. And thanked me and the president for our contributions to Finnish athletics. This is a testimony to me of how if you have a little bit to give and you do what you can, the Lord will make a big thing, including parliamentary awards on a national level to a 21-year-old kid with sophomore basketball experience at a well-known university. In other words, the Lord can take what we'll give and really magnify it if we let Him. Put in the hand of the Lord. And I know that's true, because I've done it. Now, I'm going to share something that's very sacred with you. And I hope that you'll hold this on your hearts. I'd been in Finland as a mission president. Well, let me go back. 31 years later, I was sitting on the edge of the bed trying to wake up. It was the 17th day of December. And Mom came hurrying to me with the phone. She said, Arthur D. Haycock is on the phone. And I said, who's Arthur D. Haycock? And she said, he's the secretary to the prophet. Oh, okay. And then he came on the phone, and I thought it was some of the guys down at the office calling me and kidding me. And he said, is this Arnold Isaacson, the former Finnish missionary? Yes. You still speak Finnish? I said, yes. Matter of fact, we have a Finnish girl living with us. Hi.
Hi.
Right now, as an exchange student. We said, just a minute, the prophet wants to talk to you.
That's not intimidating, no.
And I thought, oh, yeah. And then that unmistakable voice of the president of the church came over the phone, and he said, Brother Isaacson, yes? The purpose for this phone call is to invite you to serve as the president of the Finnish mission. Will you go? I said, yes, President. He said, don't you want to ask your wife? And I said, she's standing right by me and nodding her head, yes, she knows what this call's about. Well, he said, thanks, Sister Isaacson, for me. Mention this to no one. The church wants to make this announcement rather than you making the announcement. Okay. He said, come by the office in the next couple of days and pick up your letter of confirmation. Okay. Changed our lives. I went to Finland, and had been in the office of the president less than a month when I got a call from the head of immigration in Finland. Remember I said there was a guy who kept notes on all the players? Herra Palmu? Well, guess who was the head of immigration in Finland? Herra Palmu. And 31 years later, I said, boy, if I'm going to jail, my wife and daughter are going with me. So I took Donna and Linda with me.
No, thanks a lot.
And he said, are you, perfect English, are you Arnold Isaacson, the former Finnish missionary? Yes. Are you the one who coached our national basketball team? Yes. Are you here to coach us some more? No, I said, I'm here as the mission president for the Mormon Church. What's a mission president? I'm glad you asked. So I told him, and he said, we had a lovely conversation. And then the Spirit whispered, ask him, is there something you can do for him? So I did. We camino buena teita. How can I help you? Well, he said, I'm responsible for all newcomers into this country from foreign nations. And sometimes when your boys relocate, they don't tell the local police departments that they're moving. And that causes me to have gray hairs, because I have to keep track of all these boys. Would you tell them to be a little more careful on reporting in when they move to a new city? Yeah, I would. I said I knew better than that. Each month when we have transfers, I have a roster. And it lists who is here, who they're with, what's their address, and what city they're in. And I said, as soon as I get that list, I'll bring you a copy so you'll know the same day as I know where every one of our Mormon missionaries are in Finland. Oh, he said, that'd be fine. He said, if I'm busy, give it to my secretary. She's right out there. Okay? And I did that religiously for 3 years. Well, time went by. And about 3 weeks before we were to leave Finland, I was at one of his downtown offices. The man said, happily, pretty soon your boys are going to have to leave Finland after 6 months. What? Yeah. Our top people have made the decision that those who are not here to do necessary work for Finland didn't think we were too necessary. We'll have to leave after 6 months. Or at least leave and get their visas renewed, and then they go back. Oh, I said, that'd ruin us. We don't really even know how to speak Finnish in 6 months. May I talk to your supervisor? Yes. Took me back, and it was a lady. She told me exactly the same thing. Our top people have made this decision. Well, I knew the top guy in the whole outfit, Herra Palmu. And then she volunteered, may I make any calls for you? Well, as a matter of fact, yes. Would you call Herra Palmu? She looked him up in the book, obviously. She didn't know who he was. She called him and said, Herra Palmu's here. And then I talked to Herra Palmu. I said, I've done everything you've asked me to do and more. I've complied with your request to let you know where and when our boys move. And how can you do this for us and send us out of Finland after 6 months? He said, what are you talking about, President? And then I told him the story. He said, that's not correct. Let me talk to that supervisor. Oh, Herra Palmu wants to talk to you. How long will they talk to you? And then she realized who she was talking to. She was talking to the #1 guy in the nation. And boy, she sat bolt upright, turned white as a sheet, and said, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Hung up and said, forget everything I told you. Your boys won't have to go after 6 months. A little basketball. Maybe helped a little bit on that. The Lord can do great things, little things. A week went by, and then I had a jolting experience, and I had a lot of them over there. It's a great opportunity, but it's not easy. Towards the first of my mission, we had a young man from England who was a soccer player. Came over to play professional soccer with one of the Finnish soccer teams. And he didn't speak Finnish. Well, somehow he gravitated into our office, and all of a sudden he could speak English. And we had a brother Ukkonen there, who was our finance secretary, whose dad was one of the football team's trainers at BYU. And we had another one, Brother Parks, who was in the front office. And he was a rugby player from the University of Utah. So here's a rugby player and a football mentor's son. And all of a sudden they became fast friends. And they let him do little things in the office. And pretty soon he was doing anything in the office that he could do.
Even had a shelf in the refrigerator.
The missionaries had a little apartment right next to the mission office. It was in an office, Kerostal's apartment. And they were fast friends. And they helped him to understand that the gospel was true. And so he said, I want to be baptized, but I want to go back to England and be baptized in England, where my family can be. Well, that's fine. So he went home. He was baptized. Came back a member of the church. What he didn't tell us was that his father was one of the highest authorities in the Church of England. And I just innocently asked him, what does your dad say about this? Oh, he said, my father's delighted that I finally found some religion in my life. Well, we had a little over a week left in Finland, and then it hit. That dad wasn't that happy about the whole thing. You know, in high positions, he had contact with high governmental officials. And all of a sudden, this man came in with a mandate from the English ambassador to Finland. I said that again. A hand carrier came in with a mandate from the ambassador to Finland from England. And it was a command, it wasn't an invitation for me to appear within 1 hour to his office. And it wasn't a friendly note. And I thought, what in the world is going on? You know, I didn't have a clue, but I knew that the Lord knew. Now here's another testimony. The Lord says, I'll give you what you have to say at the very instant that you need to say it. Well, I chose to walk because it wasn't that far to the ambassador's office. And I chose not to drive. I didn't want a distraction because I wanted to pray all the way over there to see if the Lord would help me to answer this man's questions, because I knew that there had to be something bad. And I didn't have a foggy idea what it was. Well, looking back on it, it was that English boy who got baptized. But I didn't know anything. So I went over, walked in the embassy office. They had a little vestibule with a couple of chairs out there before we even got in the office. So he motioned me to sit down. She said, I'll tell the ambassador that you're here. She went in and got him. Here came this typical English gentleman, ruddy-faced, big, strong man, obviously furious about something. He came storming down and sat in a chair, leaned forward with a belligerent look on his face. If I could have been intimidated, I would have been. But I knew I was on the Lord's errand, so I was not intimidated. I just sat there. And he said, we will no longer allow you to send your people from Finland over to England as missionaries for your church. We have plenty of priests that can teach us about the Lord and about baptisms. We don't need your finished people over there. So here, you know, the axe would fall. Finns were no longer to be allowed in England as missionaries. And I was so tired after nearly 3 years that I was ready to go home. I was run out. But the Lord gave me some strength, and He also kept His promise. I'll give you what you need to say at the very moment you need to say it. And I said, not angry, not to cause rancor, but powerful like He was. Oh, that would be terrible. I said,
The clock agrees, apparently.
I said, that would be terrible. You see, the main language in our church is English. When we get any new instructions coming out from the main office, they're printed in English first when they come to us. And when our main leaders come out of our headquarters office and go anywhere in the world, they talk in English. I said, we send some of the finest young men and women in all Finland to you so that they can, among other things, when they come home, they'll be fluent in English. Oh, I didn't quite understand that, he said. By then he wasn't red-faced and belligerent. He was white-faced, leaning back in his chairs with the arm folded, as if to say, don't hit me again. It was the Lord's answer to his underlying question. He said, very well, your people may continue to come to England. I stood up, shook his hand, gave him a smile, and walked out the door with a prayer in my heart, thanking the Lord for an understanding ambassador. Now, meetings are usually judged as to their importance by how many people attend. We only had 3 at our meeting. The ambassador, and me, and the Holy Ghost. And about how long it lasts. Weeks. Ours lasted about 4 minutes. How many speakers? I only said 6 sentences. And yet, it was done. Today, Finns are still going to England as missionaries. In fact, in our language department in the church, the head Finnish translator is a returned missionary. Guess where he served his mission? In England. Okay. Well, I've given you plenty of stories, but you see, this shows me, again, that if you're there, and you're willing, and you're prepared, and you'll do what the Lord tells you to do, He'll help you to do it. No matter how impossible or how ignorant of the facts you are. So you see, I've been given many, many privileges to know that the gospel is true. And I just love you and wanted to share them with you. And I've got a whole bunch more, but that's...
Well, thanks for sharing. I hadn't heard some of those.
I hope they're interesting.
I had no idea you were so into basketball. That was awesome. It must be my dad's side of the family that's not athletic at all, because I think we're the only